Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so welcome back to my channel. This is Dr. D Oracle, your favorite psychic medium and metaphysician. I'm going to be coming to you with a video on Meghan Markle. So I wanted to get some insight about her relationship with the prince and see if there's any truth to what people actually say as far as her being a narcissist. Is she really dragging Harry, or is she justified? Is there really racism in the royal family? Let's ask Spirit today. Let's find out what's going on with her and get some insight on that. Thank you, Spirit, for insight and information, for better reasoning than judgment. We give thanks to the universal mind for opening up all channels to receive and relay the information with clarity. Let it be so. And so it is. Alright, let's cut these cards. Let's figure out what's going on with her, honey. Because at the end of the day, she seems somewhat impressive, but then you kind of sort of figure, you gotta, it's just think like, how did you do this, okay? So let's see what Spirit's saying. Her number is 9 and 8 is 17, so her number is 8. Her number is 8. Seven. 8. Oh, the Empress is coming up first off. We thank you, Spirit. We thank you very much for opening up this portal. Oh, Justice card inverted. Interesting. That's a problem. 5 of Pentacles is coming out. 5 of Cups. The Page of Staffs is making an appearance along with the Magic card. Okay, we're seeing wanting to be a happy family, wanting to fulfill all your needs. Seeing the Hierophant coming up, a traditional lifestyles, counsel. We are also seeing the Two of Swords coming up, taking off the blinders, and the High Priestess inverted. This card's about intuition. Alright, so let's see what Spirit is saying. We definitely have the Empress card coming up. The Empress. That's about royalty. And the Empress. Well, let's put this here for you. The Empress really takes charge, and she has a lot of feminine energy. She has a lot of wisdom, and she definitely is knowledgeable of some higher, like upper tier knowledge, okay? Knowing how to navigate at the top, in those top royal social spheres, okay? This card also represents just I don't think Spirit is saying anything here. That card is in the place of the present, and it's just saying presently as we speak, how this person has status, okay? And she's very aware and knowledgeable of how to navigate, okay, in those higher spheres, those higher echelons of life. Okay. Okay, the Empress is usually the Emperor's wife, so they're in charge. They've got authority. They've got clout. And that with that comes a certain amount of knowing, okay, knowledge, just being aware of certain things that normal people aren't aware of, okay. But in the place of the problem, we have the Justice card, and the Justice card is inverted. So this is saying that there's some kind of imbalance, or there's a problem with fairness, okay. There's a problem with understanding where to even the scales, okay, or find some type of leverage. This is the problem. It's in the place of the problem. So let's see if Spirit gives us any type of awareness concerning, mental issues, or just being very arrogant, or being very much only caring about the self. I definitely feel like that card says you are treated, or you treat others unfair or unjustly, okay? But that card is about injustice, or kind of sort of avoiding karma. This says you need to take accountability, okay? So it is somewhat lying to yourself, like kind of telling yourself you're not responsible for anything. That card is saying, yeah, like you kind of sort of tell yourself, it's not on me. It is not on me. But Spirit is saying kind of sort of like the consequences that are happening are due to, someone who needs to take accountability. They need to learn some of their lessons, okay? This card is also saying the circumstances are due to your own making, okay? So yeah, that card's inverted. I feel like that's kind of, Spirit saying, hey, take notice in your part, okay? That's in the place of the problem. So it's saying like she's kind of not really being truthful with the part that she's playing in the way that things have turned out, okay? That's that Justice card, inverted. The Five of Coins also comes up in the place of the past, okay? That Five of Coins sort of represents, the Five of Coins represents being put out in the cold, and you kind of sort of need help, or you need people to reach out and kind of sort of have your back. That card is like when you're being thrown out, or you basically lost some money, okay? So I would say, yeah, losing clout, losing money, you losing the value, okay? And then that card also talks about like being put out in the cold. So I think that's appropriate in the place of the past. That's just Spirit kind of saying this person's been put out in the cold, okay? And it is in the past. It hasn't happened recently, but that's one of the things that happened that brought attention, okay, to her. And they did that, like, they were doing, like, interviews, and I guess I heard, like, Tyler Perry helped them out or whatever. So, yeah. Now, this Five of Cups here. This Five of Cups is in a place of the future, okay? Yeah, that card is usually about abandonment and what's left on the table. It's also about getting the opportunities that you don't want, or just kind of being offered something that is kind of shitty, you know. Um, Inverted, I feel like that card says coming back from abandonment, but also that there's nothing on the table, there's nothing else on the table. Just try to kind of make good. So I feel like that's what Spirit is saying about the future. So far, I don't see any cards that point to any narcissistic tendencies. With this card, I do see kind of, so it's an outcome of abandonment, a future of abandonment, it says. And I kind of sort of feel like, I just feel like where that's concerned, there's hardly anything left on the table, okay? I definitely feel like that has to do with the outcome. It's coming right after the Five of Pentacles, which, like I said, is the being put out in the code card. So I definitely feel like with this card, it's saying like, you won't be salvaging anything, okay? You won't be salvaging anything. So pretty kind of sort of sad when it comes down to family ties, and you know, of course that means getting any type of inheritance. Okay. All right. So with the Page of Wands, this is a really good card because it kind of tells us the frame of mind of Meghan Markle. I feel like this card is representing her as being a very charismatic person, being very outgoing, being very free thinking. However, I just feel like this shows a tendency to think like a child sometimes, where you don't really consider the consequences of everything. So you kind of might act impulsively, okay? So I feel like this card kind of represents, you know, not thinking fully about the consequences before you act, okay? Now, the next card that comes up is the Magician card. And it's in the place of a root issue, okay? And the Magician card, that's the card that represents having everything you need. So I definitely think Spirit is giving a message about being needy, or thinking that you actually don't need anyone. So I think that's more or less what this card represents. Oh, it was right. This is the right way. Actually thinking like you don't need anyone. So being a little self-righteous, being very prideful. Okay, I think that's what the Magician card represents here. In this spread about Meghan Markle. And I also think it represents, you know, being able to concentrate and use more wisdom to make a move or make your decision. Because the Magician, that's like magic. That's like using all your power properly and having everything you need. But I think this kind of represents in the negative, thinking you don't need anyone. And I definitely feel like, you know, this is about a root issue of not taking inventory, okay, about certain things in the way that you act out, okay? I definitely think this is about holding on, or being able to hold on to your position. And, you know, those two things just contradict themselves. If you want to hold on to your position, then you've got to be able to see a little bit further in your actions and what type of impact your words are going to have on everybody. So I do feel like this card is pretty much saying, like, you think you don't need anyone. And so that's kind of sort of, I think that's going to have an effect on her family, like her kids, and just, Spirit was saying she doesn't think through everything and kind of acts impulsively a little bit with that. So I think that's basically a root issue that the Magician is pointing to, of feeling like you don't need anyone. Okay. Now here's another root issue, which is the Ten of Cups. The Ten of Cups is usually a good card, and it's not inverted, it's upright. So that usually means happiness. It usually means like there's no problem. You're starting on a new course of action with your family. It's about harmony. But I kind of sort of think for her, this card is, well, I feel it represents appearances. And I feel like things are a little bit more devastating than what they kind of let on to. Okay. And I think that card just generally, it represents some type of family problems or issues in the place of a root issue, and just like a little bit of dysfunction. Okay. Isolation as well. I feel like that card represents, appearances and trying to make things look like something that it's not. I feel like there's secrets, there's disharmony, and people are trying to just keep up appearances with that. So yeah, there's an element of deception with that card, like trying to make everything look better or appear better than what it really is, and trying to cover up some stuff, a lot of emotional stuff, and I definitely feel with that card, Spirit is saying like there's some dysfunctional, family type stuff going on here. So far, I don't see anything narcissistic more than I see an element of pride here and just being a little bit impulsive. I feel like I do see an element of shock, like not understanding how this is going to, like you thought it was going to turn out way different. So you really didn't understand how, this was going to turn out. And I definitely feel with that Ten of Cups, you wish for, this happy family. But at the end of the day, you're trying to cover up the fact that you're really very hurt, very emotionally impacted by everything. The Herald comes up next. And I guess that would be, that's like 3 5s, but this is another major energy card, just like the Five of Pentacles. The Hierophant inverted is giving us some major energy in the final part of this spread. And that card talks about like unconventional lifestyles. Sometimes it's about reversed roles. It's about, it can be about like unconditional relationships, but it's coming out inverted, so it's kind of sort of like this. And I feel like the major energy here is challenging authority, getting into some type of, or bumping heads with an authority figure, okay? Also, it's like you go against like social norms, okay? Things that basically everybody kind of sort of knows. You challenge that, okay? Or challenging like the status quo, okay? I definitely feel like that's a root issue. Spirit's saying that's a root issue. And it's about more or less learning to play by your own rules, or kind of being able to call your own shots, okay? That's what she goes for. But sometimes, that can cause conflicts with people in authority, or just conflicts with the way that people have been doing things for, I don't know, thousands, hundreds of years or whatever. So I feel like this card just represents challenging authority. Let's put it upside down. Challenging authority, that's the way it looks to me. Challenging authority and just kind of challenging social norms. Okay. Two of Swords coming up. That's inverted too. That's about loyalty, taking off the blinders, and kind of seeing things for what they are rather than what you want them to be. And it is in a place of hopes and fears. So I don't know. Right now I feel like that card is like hoping people will come around, but fearing they won't. Hoping people will change their mind, but fearing that they won't. It does represent delays, things being postponed, emotional, mental turmoil, okay? And resentment, being cold and guarded. I think because that card does represent like coming into truth, or being able to see things for what they are, lies being exposed. So when I see that card, I don't know, I just kind of feel like she has gotten sort of a bad rap. She's not quite narcissistic, but she's not quite innocent either. She doesn't want to take accountability for her impulsive actions, and her being just saying, like, we're going to do this, and she wants to challenge the status quo, but not really realizing how, that's going to affect her husband. So I just kind of feel I feel with that card, in the place of hopes and fears, she's created a situation where, people are going to be very overly cautious about dealing with her and dealing with their children. People are going to be very emotionally detached from her because, above all, she really puts emphasis on this thing about challenging the status quo. That's very important to her. That's what I feel. Also, I don't know, I just think it's going to make the royal family very cold and guarded against her. And I definitely feel like, you know, that may become more apparent to her over time. Okay, so there's basically, she's kind of sort of ruined any type of loyalty that they may have had for her, by, you know, not really looking at her intention, her goal to like challenge the status quo. That's putting a barrier or a wall or a block up. Okay, so I kind of feel that's what this card stands for. Okay. And the last card that comes up is the High Priestess. This card is also inverted, so I'm looking at it like this. That card is all about having choices, being able to follow your intuition. That card is also about contracts or agreements. And that card is in the place of the outcome. I definitely feel like that card says broken contracts and agreements. Broken contracts and agreements. And I definitely feel like Spirit's saying that's going to make her question herself later and have an issue, you know, with how she acted. Not really following, well, too much, I guess, of following the instincts. Okay. And this says that your instincts were wrong. So she wasn't really going off intuition. She just has an idea in her head, which later on in life she's going to come to find or learn a lot from that. And learn that just having the excitement to go against, you know, what people feel is normal or what people think is normal is, it has its upside, but it can kind of be a downfall sometimes. If you're not using wisdom, I do think the High Priestess stands for wisdom, or like being a wise woman. Okay. So this card just kind of says one of the things that is an outcome of everything that has happened is she is on a path to understand how her disconnect, okay, with herself and her inability to listen to her inner voice has placed her in a situation that she can't go back on. You know, she's challenged certain things, and because she's done that, like, she's put the blocks up before herself, okay, by not thinking, by not using wisdom, by not following her inner, or using an inner voice, okay. And that card says that she doubts herself, or she doesn't trust, you know, herself to make decisions. I really feel this speaks for, you know, being a little confused mentally, okay? And I definitely think she's going to question her own motives in the future. So we'll probably hear her talk about where she went wrong and the fact that she had put just some block or barrier up where she wished that she hadn't, okay? And then I almost feel like I feel like Harry, I feel like he's going to be, I don't know, I just feel like health problems for him. And I feel like once those health problems show their ugly face, then she's going to realize she can't be all he needs. He does need his family. He does need to be close to the people who love him as well. And she's going to come to regret her lapse in judgment and the fact that she hasn't used wisdom. I really don't see anything in here about her being narcissistic. Mostly, I feel like this is karma. Like, she has to learn a karmic lesson from this. She wants to do things like challenge the status quo or challenge authority. Okay? Let's see. It's this way. Looking at me like this. She wants to challenge authority. Okay? Also, the Ten of Cups. We talked about appearances with that card. That's more of like covering up, though. Just trying to make things seem lighter than what they are. But no, I definitely feel like she doesn't see the ramifications of someone separating from their family so that they can just go on this mission of challenging the status quo. And I almost think Miss Princess Diana's son, they said she challenged the status quo. And that was why the royal family had a big problem with her. So I think they're kind of following in those footsteps at the end of the day. And I kind of think, Harry really feels like, that's part of his mom's legacy. So he's going along with it. I definitely think that Miss Megan has some of the qualities of Princess Diana, but she's just a little too intense with it. And I think that's because she's more American. And Americans are more individualized, so we don't really care too much about how things are going to affect everybody as a whole when we have a point to make, okay? When we have an opinion. So I think she's being a little self-centered in that respect. Yeah. So I definitely think too with this five of cups right here. I said everything's, mostly everything's been taken off the table as far as inheritance and being able to reap any kind of benefits off of the situation. Okay? But of course, she's very self-righteous. Like I said, this magician card shows you're very self-righteous. And you feel like you don't need anyone. You'll make it without them. And that's fine for her. Maybe she does. But I do feel like Harry's going to come to need his family's support. And I think she's going to come to regret, the fact that she couldn't see the bigger picture. So, while she's the Empress, and she's, she's got clout. She's got clout. She's learning. She's in training, okay? She definitely doesn't understand the role that was expected of her. She actually challenges that, and she feels like that traditional type role there. That's not something that she wants to respect. In a way, I think that may be sort of wrong of her, but at the end of the day, you live and you learn. She's not royalty. She didn't grow up as a royal, so she doesn't really understand, how to fulfill certain aspects of that role. feel like the Empress also shows that, you know, she could do better with her communication. She can do better with exploring her emotions. She can do better with compassion. Okay? But mostly, that card shows her real connections. So, I honestly, let's just ask Spirit one more time to come through the cards. Let's see, her number was 8. And see if she's narcissistic. We're going to ask right out, Spirit, is she narcissistic? 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't see it. I see her for them. With this card, Spirit is saying, excuse me, I'm yawning. I'm about to go to sleep. Healing. Getting over destruction. Getting over chaos. Okay? So, I don't see that she is narcissistic. But what I do see is that she downplays the fact that she kind of challenges the status quo and what that's going to mean later on. And not being able to... I feel more like with that Justice card, you know, justification. Trying to justify something that is wrong. Because that's in the place of the problem. So, I just feel like she's done a little bit too much with challenging that status quo here. So that's going to complete this reading on Miss Meghan Markle. Definitely feel like people are wrong in the fact of diagnosing her as a narcissist. I do feel like she's misunderstood, but I don't feel like she's all the way innocent here because she is being very self-righteous. She is taking over Harry's decisions to, you know, have a place for himself and his children and back in the family. And she thinks that these appearances and whatnot are going to suffice. But Spirit is saying, you know, she's going to regret a lot of that in the long run with this High Priestess card inverted. She's going to be regretting it. She didn't really use wisdom and she's not connected to her inner voice or her higher mind. So it's kind of like she is acting from a place of selfishness and what she's used to. I feel like it's a lot of being just Americanized because in America we're so used to expressing ourselves and just seeing a different perspective or point of view and taking it from 0 to 10 to make changes or you know, just to challenge that status quo, you know. And that's very admired here. But they don't admire that shit in England, okay? They don't give a damn, you know, about her not wanting to conform to the norms, okay? And that's why she made her choice. She felt like she didn't need anybody, but she does. So, that completes this reading. Thank you for watching.